The streets outside the stadium were alive with energy. Thousands of fans, clad in sequined outfits and Eras Tour merch, had gathered hours before the gates opened. Many had camped overnight, sharing stories, singing songs, and holding signs, professing their love for Taylor Swift. The air was electric, the kind of buzz that only came with a concert of this magnitude. Inside the stadium, it was organized chaos. Technicians scurried about, ensuring every light, speaker, and screen was perfectly aligned. Vendors prepared their stands, selling everything from glittering light sticks to limited edition posters. Backstage, the mood was more measured. The team that had been with Taylor for years operated like clockwork, handling last-minute details with practiced ease. Taylor herself was in her dressing room, her makeup artist adding the final touches. She sat still, her eyes closed, while her manager briefed her on the evening. The crowd is massive, Tay. Completely sold out, and they're already chanting your name. We're looking at about 70,000 tonight. Taylor opened her eyes and smiled. 70,000 voices singing together. It's going to be magical, she said, her voice soft but confident. Despite her global stardom, the pre-show ritual always brought a mix of nerves and excitement. She flipped through the set list, mentally rehearsing every note, every transition, every heartfelt message she'd share with her fans. 5 minutes to go, her manager said, stepping out to give her a moment alone. At the perimeter of the stadium, security personnel conducted their final rounds. These sweeps were standard procedure, especially for high-profile events like this. Most guards didn't expect to find anything unusual. It was just another box to check off, before showtime. But tonight was different. A security officer named Marcus, a veteran of countless events, approached a delivery truck, parked near the west entrance. It was marked with a stage equipment logo, identical to dozens of others. Yet something about this one felt off. The driver, who had been idly leaning against the truck, seemed unusually tense. As Marcus approached, the man quickly stubbed out his cigarette and moved away. "Hey, hold up," Marcus called out. But the man pretended not to hear and disappeared into the crowd. Marcus frowned and signaled his partner. Together, they opened the back of the truck. At first glance, it seemed innocuous, crates and tarps, just as expected. But as Marcus leaned closer, a faint chemical smell hit his nose. He peeled back the tarp, and his heart sank. Inside were neatly stacked crates, containing what appeared to be explosive devices. Wires coiled out of them like snakes, connected to small, blinking modules. Marcus immediately reached for his radio. "Base, this is Marcus. We've got a situation at the west entrance. Possible explosives. Repeat, possible explosives. Lockdown protocol initiated." The response was immediate. Alarms blared through the stadium's internal systems, and staff were directed to evacuate. Fans still pouring into the venue were halted at the gates. Confusion rippled through the crowd, as the buzz of excitement turned into murmurs of concern. Backstage, the alarms were deafening. Taylor's manager burst into her dressing room, his face pale. "Tay, we've got an emergency. Security found something explosives. We need to get you out of here now." For a moment, the words didn't register. "Explosives," Taylor echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Then the gravity of the situation hit her. "What about the fans? Are they okay? We're evacuating, but we need to focus on you right now." Her manager insisted, guiding her toward the exit. Outside, the scene was chaotic. Fans who had been waiting eagerly were now being asked to leave the premises. Many resisted, confused and desperate for answers. Taylor, shielded by her security team, watched from a tinted SUV as people were ushered away. Her heart broke at the sight of tear-streaked faces, some holding up signs that read, "We love you, Taylor." The SUV sped away, taking Taylor to a secure location. Inside, she sat in silence, her hands trembling. She had always known that fame came with risks, but this was different. Someone had targeted her fans, innocent people, who just wanted to celebrate music and joy. She couldn't shake the image of the explosives, the thought of what could have happened if they hadn't been discovered in time. That night, as news of the canceled concert spread like wildfire, Taylor sat in her hotel room, staring at her phone. Social media was flooded with messages of support, confusion, and heartbreak. But amid the noise, one question burned in her mind. Why? Why would someone do this? She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment her life would change forever. Taylor sat on a plush couch, in the center of a nondescript safe house. Her head buried in her hands. The weight of the day pressed down on her. Every headline on her phone blared the same message. Taylor Swift's concert canceled amid security threat. Fans around the world were devastated, speculating endlessly about what had gone wrong. But the truth was something far darker. The door to the safe house creaked open, and in walked a man who exuded authority. Dressed in a sharp suit, with an air of calm control, he introduced himself as Special Agent Ryan Cross, an operative with the National Security Task Force. "Miss Swift, thank you for meeting with me. I know this has been a difficult night," he began, setting a slim folder on the table. Taylor looked up, her voice steady, despite the turmoil inside her. "Tell me what's going on. Why were there explosives? Who's behind this?" Ryan slid the folder across the table. "We believe the materials found in the truck were intended for a targeted attack. And you, Miss Swift, were the primary target." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Taylor's pulse quickened, but her gaze didn't waver. "Why me? My fans. What do they have to do with any of this?" Ryan hesitated, then opened the folder to reveal grainy surveillance photos. "We've been tracking a group known as the Crimson Syndicate, an international criminal network involved in arms smuggling, human trafficking, and high-profile assassinations. Their operations are extensive, but one thing ties them together. They thrive on chaos. Disrupting an event like yours creates fear, destabilizes public trust, and provides cover for their deeper operations." Taylor's breath caught as Ryan pulled out another photo. It showed a figure standing near a private jet. "Her private jet. We also found evidence that your movements have been tracked for weeks. They knew exactly when and where to strike." The weight of Ryan's words hit Taylor like a freight train. Her mind raced with the implications. 70,000 fans, innocent people, had been minutes away from becoming pawns in a twisted game. And worse, the attack was personal. "Why me?" she asked again, this time with a tremble in her voice. Ryan leaned forward. "Your influence. Your voice reaches millions, crosses borders. To them, you're not just a musician, you're a symbol of unity, something they want to tear apart." Taylor clenched her fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. She wasn't just angry at the syndicate. She was angry at herself for feeling powerless. That night, long after Ryan left, Taylor sat alone, replaying the day's events in her mind. She thought of the fans who had trusted her, the chaos outside the stadium, the lives that could have been lost. Her gaze fell on a photo on the coffee table. Her late security chief, James Monroe, a man who had protected her through countless tours. He had been more than just an employee. He had been family. And now he was gone, a casualty of the very world she had tried to avoid. The photo stirred something inside her, a determination she hadn't felt before. The next morning, Taylor called Ryan. "What can I do to help?" she asked, her voice resolute. Ryan paused, taken aback. "Miss Swift, with all due respect, this isn't your fight. We're dealing with highly trained operatives." "No," she interrupted. "This is my fight. They came after me and my fans. I won't just stand by and watch while others clean up their mess." After a long silence, Ryan relented. "If you're serious, I know someone who can prepare you for what's coming. But this won't be easy, and once you start, there's no going back." "I've made my decision," she said firmly. Within days, Taylor was introduced to Ethan Kane, a retired intelligence officer with a reputation for turning civilians into operatives. Their first meeting was tense. Ethan, a grizzled man in his late 50s, eyed her skeptically. "You're a pop star," he said bluntly. "What makes you think you're cut out for this?" Taylor met his gaze without flinching. "I don't think I know. I've spent my life standing in front of crowds, bearing my soul to millions. If I can handle that, I can handle this." Ethan smirked. "We'll see." The training was grueling. Ethan pushed Taylor to her limits, teaching her everything from hand-to-hand combat to tactical planning. She learned to shoot, to read a room for threats, to think 3 steps ahead of her enemy. At first, she struggled, her body and mind unused to the relentless pace. But with each passing day, she grew stronger, more focused. During a late-night debrief with Ryan and Ethan, a breakthrough came. Surveillance data revealed the syndicate's next move. A shipment of high-tech weapons, disguised as medical supplies, was set to leave a remote warehouse in just 72 hours. If it reached its destination, the consequences would be catastrophic. Ethan turned to Taylor. "This is it. If you're ready, this will be your first mission. But there's no room for mistakes." Taylor didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." The room was dimly lit, a single projector, casting an image of a sprawling industrial warehouse onto the wall. Taylor sat across from Ethan Kane and Special Agent Ryan Cross, her newly acquired combat skills sharp, but untested in real-world danger. "This is the Crimson Syndicate's primary loading dock," Ryan began, pointing to the map. "They've secured it with multiple layers of defense. Armed guards, surveillance drones, and encrypted communication lines. Their shipment, a cache of advanced weaponry, is set to leave in less than 72 hours. If it reaches their international buyers, we're looking at catastrophic consequences." Taylor studied the map, her eyes narrowing, as Ethan added, "Your job is simple. Get in, plant the trackers, and get out. If things go sideways, we have extraction teams nearby, but don't rely on them. This is your fight." Ethan paused, then looked directly at Taylor. "Are you ready for this?" Taylor took a deep breath. "I've never been more ready." Nightfall cloaked the warehouse in shadows. Taylor crouched behind a stack of shipping containers, her heart pounding in her chest. Dressed in dark tactical gear, she was nearly unrecognizable as the pop icon adored by millions. Ethan's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Entry point secured. You're clear to move." Taylor moved silently, her training kicking in with each step. She navigated past patrolling guards, her breath steady, her movements precise. At one point, a guard paused mere feet from her hiding spot, his flashlight sweeping dangerously close. Taylor pressed herself against the cold metal of a container, holding her breath until he moved on. Inside the warehouse, rows of crates lined the walls, each marked with a false medical insignia. Taylor approached the largest container and pried it open. Inside were sleek, futuristic weapons, their deadly potential evident, even to her untrained eye. Ethan's voice cut through the silence. "Plant the tracker and move to the next target." She nodded, affixing the small device to the crate's inner frame. But as she moved toward the next row of containers, a loud metallic clang echoed through the space. She froze, realizing she'd knocked over a loose crowbar. "Who's there?" A guard's voice rang out, followed by the sharp beam of a flashlight, cutting through the darkness. Taylor pressed herself against a stack of crates, her pulse racing. The guard moved closer, his weapon drawn, the light bouncing off the walls in erratic arcs. Ethan's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay low. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary." But as the guard rounded the corner, his light falling directly on her, Taylor knew she had no choice. In a blur of motion, she stepped forward, grabbing the guard's arm and twisting it, forcing him to drop his weapon. Before he could recover, she delivered a swift blow to his solar plexus, knocking him unconscious. Breathing heavily, Taylor dragged the guard into the shadows, securing his weapon before continuing her mission. As Taylor planted the final tracker, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. Red lights bathed the warehouse as guards poured into the space, their weapons drawn. "Taylor, you've been made." Ethan's voice barked in her earpiece. "Get out now." But escape wasn't an option. Not yet. The trackers were active, but without the encryption key stored in the central control room, the operation would fail. "I'm not leaving without the key," Taylor responded, her voice steady despite the chaos. She sprinted toward the control room, ducking behind crates, as gunfire erupted around her. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she reached the terminal. The flashing screen, displaying the syndicate's encrypted files. Ethan's voice was laced with urgency. You have 60 seconds before their backup systems kick in. Get the key and go. Taylor's fingers flew across the keyboard, her concentration unbreakable. Just as the countdown hit 5 seconds, she secured the key and transmitted it to Ryan's team. As Taylor turned to leave, the warehouse doors slammed open, and a towering figure stepped inside. Dmitry Kovac, the Crimson Syndicate's ruthless lieutenant, fixed her with a predatory gaze. So, the pop princess thinks she's a soldier now. He sneered, his accent thick and menacing. Let's see how well you dance when it's life or death. The ensuing fight was brutal. Dmitry was larger and stronger, but Taylor's speed and training gave her an edge. She dodged his wild swings, landing precise strikes that left him reeling. At one point, he grabbed her by the arm, slamming her against a crate, but she retaliated with a well-placed elbow to his jaw. The fight ended with Taylor disarming Dmitry, holding him at gunpoint. "This isn't over," he spat, blood trickling from his lip. "It is for you," Taylor replied, knocking him unconscious with the butt of her gun. Taylor emerged from the warehouse as sirens wailed in the distance. The trackers were active, the encryption key secure, and the Crimson Syndicate's operation in ruins. But she knew this was only the beginning. Ethan met her at the extraction point, his expression a mix of relief and pride. "You did good, kid," he said gruffly. Taylor nodded, her resolve stronger than ever. "This isn't just about tonight. They'll come back. And I'll be ready."
She's more dangerous than we thought. Keep an eye on her.